Well, welcome to Behind the Point. I'm Pastor Jeff here with Pastor Josue.
Good morning.
Our we're getting ready for kids to go back to school. So mine started.
Thank God.
Mine were back today.
That's good.
Thank God.
Thank
Yeah.
God.
Praise the Lord. I remember some old Target commercials where the parents are like, "It's the most wonderful time."
Uh-huh.
Skipping through the aisles to get them back to school.
Hits different when you
Yeah.
have kids. You're like, oh, thank God they're going back to school.
Yeah. So Sam, both boys, Sam started third grade today, and then we
Oh,
started.
that's right. You started this week. I
Mhm.
just asked you
Yep.
this morning. That's right.
And then we have Josh is at a new preschool.
Oh,
So it was a
awesome.
big day for the kids, but drop
How did
off
they
was
do?
good.
Drop off was
Yeah.
good. Good.
No
Good.
crying, so that was good. Sam was a little bit nervous
Yeah.
to start back, but I
What
think
grade
I
is he in
always
now?
was third.
Third grade. Okay.
Yeah. And then your kids start back next week?
Next
Is
week.
that right?
Yeah. They go. So Sam and Matthew then are in the same grade.
Mhm. Yeah,
Why
third
did I
grade.
think Sam was older than him?
Not much. No,
Oh, okay.
August birthday.
Yeah.
Actually his birthday's today too.
Is it really?
Sam's birthday's
Oh,
today.
that's sweet.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Sam. Happy
Thanks.
birthday to you. There you go. I sang for him. Okay.
There we
Let's
go. I'll
let him
tell
know
him.
I said that.
Well, I was thinking, so summer, ours is over. Yours is wrapping up this week.
Yeah.
What was your favorite time with your family this summer? Did you have like a special place you went or
Well,
activity?
we took a vacation out to Texas.
Mhm.
That was a lot of fun. We had a great time out there. It was unfortunate the reason that we were out there. We were celebrating the passing of our little niece. Niece. It'd been a year.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't say celebrating, but we went out to spend the time
Yeah.
with our family out there. But we had a good time while we were out there. It was a lot of fun. And the kids went and they did our family out there. They did such a good job. We told them like, don't feel like you have to entertain us. We're here
Right.
for you guys.
You
But
told us a
they-
little bit about the pizza or
Yeah,
going bowling.
that
and
was
stuff, I think.
super cool. That was a lot of fun. That place
Yeah.
was really cool. Some of the places that we went to throughout the week, the food was
Yeah.
amazing, and it was just great to spend time with them.
Yeah.
So we don't get to see them as often anymore with them being out there, but that was a lot of fun. And then, believe it or not, my son actually got really sick. And so he had to be quarantined for a minute, but it was unfortunate for him because it's like his whole summer was
Yeah.
kind of shot for the rest of it. But we got to spend that time with him. Like he wasn't sick, but it's just like there's like a
Contagious or
yeah,
whatever.
well, it's like something about like his spleen, like he couldn't really roughhouse, he couldn't do anything because
Yeah.
it would like swell and it could rupture, something
Okay.
along those lines. Anyway, so he couldn't do the normal stuff he wanted to do. So, but it was fun to be able to spend that time with him because of it. My wife and I found different things to
Yeah.
do.
You have to get creative.
Yeah, so we went to the movies, we went to these random museums that we would find, and we went and did all kinds of cool stuff. We went to the Science Center. I'd
Oh,
never
yeah.
been to that one before. That was a lot
You
of
did
fun.
the LA one.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And that was really cool. So we got a lot of family time in the
Good.
summer, which was I really enjoyed that. That
Good.
was fun. Yeah.
Our favorite was probably we did a Legoland trip, beach day.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. We stayed at
Do you guys stay out when you go to Legoland?
not normally. Well, I
just
guess I
spend the
would
day
say
out
half
there?
the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have passes, so we've gone maybe like once a year the last few years, and it's our kids' favorite theme park. I
Oh,
think
that's cool.
so.
Yeah.
So we try to do it once a summer if we
Cool.
can. We did like one time, or actually twice. One time, someone paid for us to go to the Legoland hotel,
Oh, nice.
so that was cool. And then we splurged and did it another time. We wanted to stay at the castle one that's right next door.
Yeah,
So that was kind of, we're like, okay, one time do that with the kids.
We went at a recommendation of you. That's where we went. So a year
Oh, yeah,
ago
to
for my
Legoland.
birthday, I took the kids there.
Yes.
Like I wanted them to
Yeah.
go. But that hotel right next door
It's
is
really
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Built of
But we didn't
all,
go.
I mean, everything around is built of Legos.
Yeah,
So
that's
it was a
awesome.
lot of fun.
Cool.
But we did that. Did you have a favorite date with Stephanie? You guys went out recently somewhere.
We did. Well, we've actually had a few of them that have really been fun. There's a restaurant we found up in the mountains, right off of Highway 189. It's called Stone Creek Bistro. Really, really good. They have an amazing prime rib, but it's only available on Saturdays. So that's tricky to navigate that, to find a day that you can go up on Saturday night. But recently, 2 weeks ago now, a week and a half ago, we went to this new restaurant out in Riverside called Dapper's. That was really good. Really enjoyed that. It's right across the street from the old spaghetti factory.
yeah.
but that one was really good. It's pricey, much more than I expected it to be. But it was fun. Every now and then you splurge.
Yeah,
So it was,
special date.
it was a lot. We had a great time. It was someone the kids spent the night at grandma's house, so it was fun. We had a good time. Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
really enjoyed that.
We just had Carrie and I celebrated our 15-year anniversary.
Hey,
So
happy anniversary!
Thank you. So if my boss gives me off, I didn't ask you yet, but we might do a little trip in September or something.
No.
Oh, okay,
So-
never
no,
mind.
it's
But
Where are you guys going?
we haven't planned yet, but maybe somewhere
okay.
just up north a little, like maybe even
can have
Pismo
Friday
Beach or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take my normal.
Yeah, there you go.
We're not a week or anything. Just a few
Where is
days.
Pismo? I hear people talk about that
It's,
beach all the time. I don't know where it is.
I don't know exactly, but I think
Okay.
it's north of.
Do you know where it is, Damien?
I believe it's north of Santa Barbara, but I'm not positive.
Where is
about
Santa
that.
Barbara? I hear people talk about
North
Santa
of
Barbara.
Malibu.
Where?
It's on the-
I still don't know
it's
where
on the
Malibu
coast,
is.
like,
Do you know how huge the
two-
coast of California
I
is,
know.
bro?
It's south of Monterey.
It's one whole side of the
north
state.
of LA. Yeah.
No,
So
okay.
there's LA.
It's just
and then-
north.
Yeah, like the LA beaches, Manhattan Beach, all those. Then it kind of like
Never been.
Well, I'll
I
show you
know
a
where
map.
Corona Del Mar is and where Huntington is. That's
like
it.
2 hours north of there or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Very good.
Yeah. above
Oh,
Santa
thank you.
Barbara.
That's
Yeah.
helpful.
I'll show you a map later.
Gotcha. All right. Very
But we just on our anniversary, or the day after our anniversary, we went
good. 15 years, you said?
15 years. Yeah,
Cool.
we went kayaking. So we have a
Oh,
little
nice.
inflatable one, and we went to Balboa area.
Isn't that called rafting?
Well, it's kayak's a specific boat, but it is inflatable.
Okay.
So I don't know. But
That's called whitewater rafting.
yeah, no, it wasn't whitewater. It's like the very calm harbor and stuff. But that was a lot of fun. So.
Cool. Very
yeah.
good.
Well,
Well,
let's
that's
get in enough chit chat, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's get into the message. So we're continuing this series on Sermon on the Mount. And this week you talked about giving to the needy.
Mhm.
And that was based on Matthew 6, 1-4. And your your points all revolved around avoiding hypocrisy and godliness. And you talked a little bit about the Pharisees who would practice their righteousness in front of others. And it was a fake righteousness, really.
Mhm.
It was more about what do they look like than something genuine in their heart. And so Jesus is addressing that. Your first point is avoiding hypocrisy and godliness means focus on relief, not reputation. And Jesus said, when you give, not if, that was a big point you made.
Right,
That's
when.
we're all called to give.
Right.
And we're called to be generous. The issue, though, is how. And you said, don't toot your own horn. And there's even you talked about the imagery. Sometimes they'd put the coin in and it makes that
Mhm.
sound and stuff. So we don't have a fanfare. Why is it that when we're on stage, we highlight generosity and serving? So sometimes even we do that as on our social media team too. We'll highlight, Church in Action went out and did this, or this group collected and gave to this thing, or we raised this amount for missions. Why do we do that, and are we showing off?
Why do we make a video of what we
Well,
did?
yeah, why do we promote it, from stage during announcements or our message? Sometimes we'll say, we're excited Berean women just collected
Yeah.
these items,
Yeah.
or why do we do that? And is that
Well,
going
I mean,
against what your point was?
I see what you're saying. Okay, is there a hypocrisy in that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. No, I don't think there's a hypocrisy in there. Even in the New Testament, we read about Paul talking about, hey, the churches in Macedonia, their generosity, the churches here, this is what they did, and he brings about and he shares all the time. In his closing remarks, the church here sends you greetings and thanks for this, and so he always incorporates those in his letters. There is a way within the church to share the good things, the wins, the
Yes.
excitements. That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Now it would be different if we said, "Hey, do you want to be a righteous person? Come and serve on Saturday."
Right.
That'd be very different.
Sure.
But in saying "Hey, church, look, this is what it looks like to be the hands and feet of Jesus." We helped out this family. We were able to do this. We were able to do that, and you give thanks to the people for this is why we say thanks for your obedience
Mhm.
and sacrificial
Mhm.
giving, because we're celebrating the wins. This is what it looks like to literally be the church in the world.
Yeah.
It'd be different if it was all internal. Hey guys, look, only because of what you guys gave, like we were able to get raises and we were able to better ourselves and we were able to just, paint the do all internal stuff, but we focus outward,
Yeah.
not internally. So we want to show that to the world. You want to celebrate those wins. Is that showing off? No, I don't think so. I
Yeah.
think that is a way of saying, here is what it looks like to be the church. It is sacrificial. It requires giving. It requires time. It requires energy. And thanks to these folks who were able to give of their time and energy, not everyone is able to do that. I get that.
Yeah.
I totally understand. I mean, we do it sometimes on certain days, certain times. People are working. That doesn't mean that they're less sacrificial than this person
Mhm.
over here, but it's celebrating the wins of what you're able to do. That's always a good thing. But
Yeah.
again, the point that I made yesterday was we shouldn't do it for the recognition. If someone recognizes it, that's something
Yes.
different. But if we do it because it's what we're called to do, and we want to celebrate that as a church.
That's good. Yeah, I would probably just add to that. We rarely celebrate just an individual. It's
Absolutely.
usually like a group, and it's different when it's us highlighting other people.
Correct.
We try not to ever say, well, "Look how much I did,"
Right.
or it's
Exactly.
more, "Look at this group
Yeah.
of people,"
That's
and
what you
this
call virtue signaling, right?
right.
That's
Yeah.
a big difference. There's the meme out there where it's someone's holding a cell phone, taking a selfie as they're feeding a
Right.
homeless person. It's like that you missed the point. You missed the
Exactly.
point here. You're
Exactly.
trying to celebrate what you're doing, not the relief that
Yes.
someone else
Yeah.
got. Is very different.
And again, your point was focus on.
Correct.
So the reputation may come as a positive consequence, but the focus is on we're really trying to give the relief. We're
Yes.
trying to bless and help someone
Absolutely.
else.
Yep.
Kind of related to that too. You said we don't give out of a desire to build a reputation for ourselves, to have a name on a plaque, to get a tax write-off. That's never our goal. We give because of wanting to help people in need. But what if our intention is not to get those things, but we receive them anyways? Is our reward in heaven taken away? Because Jesus in these times talks about like, don't let your left see what your right's doing. Don't do these things in front of others.
Yeah.
So is it, oh man, if someone saw me, is God not going to bless that?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that's still, I mean, the whole point, John Stott, the quote that I used yesterday from John Stott, what he mentions is that what is the reward to begin with, right? The reward is technically seeing that relief, that need relieved,
Yes.
right? And then that
The
love is
blessing of
satisfied.
that, you feel like it feels good.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You know that they're cared for.
But it's if I'm sitting there counting the amount of quote unquote change I'm getting in the bank in
Right.
heaven, you've missed the point already. That's you've already missed out on it. So no, I don't think we miss out on the reward at all by any means. I think there's a heavenly element to that. There's a spiritual side that comes with it. But the point here, if you receive a reward, that's okay. It's okay to be thanked. And even celebrated for that matter, so long as you give the glory to the Lord. That's what it is. It's don't say, well, I'm doing this out of the goodness of my own heart. Hey, listen, I'm doing this because I want to be obedient to what the Lord has called me to do. And I see that you've got a need. And if I can help you, and if they say, hey, thank you so much, can I give you this? And can I give you that? It's like, if you take that, that's on you. That's fine. I don't think that, what's the word I'm looking for? Diminishes the service that's been given, the help that's been offered. By any means, I don't think it does. It's okay to receive that and say, "Hey, thank you, praise God for that." I'm just glad I was able to help. Something along those lines. That's what I would suggest.
Good answer. The second point you had was avoiding hypocrisy and godliness means give, don't gloat. And so we're not bragging about it. I love how you took this point. You had kind of a little bit of a twist on it to differentiate that from your first point. And so you said, this is our duty to ourselves. So the first is really a duty to others. This is a duty to ourselves. Damien's laughing because of how many times you said duty yesterday. So grow up, Damien. All right.
That is your duty, man. Come on.
We should never compare ourselves to others. And you really talked about how it's a heart issue. So you asked us to reflect on what our heart is thinking as our hands are giving. I thought that was a good point. Is it wrong to feel good about giving?
No.
Like if it's if it that's just a natural consequence. Like, I know that I did this thing to help someone else.
Well, I wouldn't even say I did it to help someone else. I did what the Lord asked me to do.
Mm,
It would be the and it's like
yes.
I would find joy in that.
Okay.
It's as if again, the example I kind of gave with my kids and me, I know that my kids, my specifically my daughter, I can picture her, she said, Daddy, are you proud of me? Because she's like, I did
Yeah.
this. So yes, absolutely I
Yeah.
am. That's kind of what it's not so much I did it for the reward. I did
Mhm.
it because I know it's what pleases my heavenly
Mm.
Father. And that should always be the focus. That should always be the goal.
How do we honor God as we have those feelings? Is there any, like, balance of we know it went too far?
What went too far?
Just our feeling good and like, "Oh, what I did for God was really
Well, I think
awesome."
if it becomes a prideful thing,
Yeah.
there needs to be a balance there. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be a
If we're
pride.
constantly thinking about it, that's probably a red
And
flag.
well, and that's the difference between left and right hand. That's
Yes.
what he's
Yeah.
talking about. That's what that means. Don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing because it's turned into a pride issue. It's,
Yeah.
man, I really am such a good Christian. Look at what an amazing example of a Christian I am. God is so proud of me
Mhm.
because I am such an amazing Christian. Like I'm the prime example that he uses, right?
Yep.
That's arrogance, that's pride. That's when it's gone way too far. But to say I take so much joy in knowing that I'm being obedient to the Lord, there's a humility in
Yeah.
that. That's not a prideful thing. That is a I am thankful that like wow, I did what God actually asked me to do. That there's a humility in that
Mhm.
to say, yeah, I take joy in that.
Sure.
Different than saying I take pride in that.
Right.
Big difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And you recognize you're like, "What a privilege it is that God
Absolutely.
used me in this."
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool. What did you have in mind when you were talking about, reckless giving? So you said, knowing when you talked about,
Mm.
um, knowing, like, keeping your left hand and right hand,
What the
not knowing
text
what they're
doesn't
doing.
mean.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Don't be
So you
reckless.
you said not to give recklessly. Did you
Yeah.
have something in mind of what that would look like?
Well, I think there are people who have taken that text, I guess to a certain extent, out of context
Mhm.
or too far,
Okay.
one or the other. And what that means is, for example, the guy that I gave the example, I only did it at 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
But there was a pastor that I had heard once, is a Spanish pastor, one like a church that we were visiting sometime as kid or something. Anyways, he asked the people when they took an offering to stand up. And he said, because you can reach into your pockets better.
Oh,
And that's what he did. And he
okay.
goes, and don't look, just stick your hand in, close
Oh
your
my
fist,
goodness.
and put that in the plate. And to me, that's a out of context and too far. Both.
Sure.
Like that's a misrepresentation and that to me is greed, flat out. That's greed. There's a selfishness there. But there are people who will also they'll do one or the other.
Mhm.
They'll say, I just need to not pay attention. It's kind of like you know how people say, what is the Holy Spirit saying? I'm just going to open the Bible and see where it lands. And that's what he's trying to tell me.
Sure.
Like there's a
There's not a
recklessness there.
thoughtfulness behind
There
it.
you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what recklessness
Yeah.
looks like, where there is no thoughtfulness to it.
God wants them to take care of their family. They need to
Yeah,
pay their
you still
bills,
have
all these
responsibilities and things
things.
that you have
Yeah.
to do. There are people, and I have seen it work in their favor
Mhm.
at times, but there are people who will make what any other sound person would say that was a reckless move. I'm just going to up and sell my home, quit my job, move out of state, and go into. Now, I have seen that work, but these are people who are legitimately spiritually mature
Yeah.
and
Make
can
sure you
make
hear
that
from the
move.
Lord.
Yeah, they
You
can
need
make that move.
really good
But there
clarity.
are people who have not heard from the Lord and they just say, "Nope, it's an act of faith." No, that's an act of foolishness.
Mm.
Like you really need to be careful with what you it's the kind of people that will make those reckless
Mhm.
decisions. And I feel like I did that one time. I tend to be overly generous at times with things, and I'm kind of a sucker for a good story, and I got taken advantage of real good one time
Mm.
on a financial level. And my wife, if she hears this, she's gonna laugh. But I remember I went. I think I shared this with you guys actually
Yeah.
before, where I went to Walmart and I spent like way too much money. This lady who claimed to be homeless, and then it's like my wife's like, "Did you get a receipt?" I'm like, "No," and she's like, "You realize that they just turned back around and returned it all and got the money, right?" And I was like, No. I was like adamant. I was like, that's not what they did. Like they needed
Yeah.
that money. They had a baby in the car and they had and
Yeah.
I got that to me was a reckless thing to do. It was. And in hindsight, I see that now. Um, but I'm like, all right, well, you know what? In the moment, I thought I was doing
Yeah.
the right thing. And thankfully it didn't like send us into bankruptcy or anything, but
Sure.
in helping out that
Sure.
way. But we need to use some good discernment
Yeah.
there. And I say that even to my own shame in in that I didn't do it in the moment. But that's just one very small example along with all the other things of how we can in fact be
Yep.
reckless with that. It's for the sake of trying to honor a text that we misunderstand, we just say don't look and just write down the first number that comes onto that checkbook. Like that's reckless. Don't do that. That's reckless.
Good. And the last point was avoiding hypocrisy in godliness means let God be my only witness.
Mhm.
And you said that if focusing on relief, so the first point, if focusing on relief, not reputation, is our duty to others. Your second point, giving and not gloating, is our duty to ourselves. Then letting God be our only witness is our duty to our heavenly Father.
Right.
And to what extent do we need to be secret about giving? If he's our, the goal is that he's really our only witness, or he's the one that sees it. How how like far do I need to go out of my way to do things in secret? Should it always be anonymous?
I guess we need to make a distinction. Are we talking about giving to the church, or are we talking about giving to someone in need? And we probably
You
should have
can answer
started there.
both.
Okay.
You can answer
So
both.
I would say if we're giving to the church, that it goes back to the John Stott
Mhm.
quote that I used earlier. Our public works, our service to the Lord should be public for the sake of sharing the light, right?
Mhm.
Being a light in the world. But I'm forgetting the exact verbiage that he used there. But our religious observations, those need to be that, like our faithfulness to a tithe, our
Mhm.
faithfulness to give, our faithfulness to serve. That kind of stuff should be private, lest we begin to boast about them. So there are certain things. If we're giving to the church, I don't think it's anybody's business
Mhm.
that I go out and post on Facebook or Twitter or wherever that might
Yeah.
be and say, hey guys, I got my tax return and I gave $5,000
Yeah.
today. That's just ridiculous. That's again prideful arrogance. That's what that is. Um,
There's if you give by cash or card, a couple people know, or if you
yeah,
mark on something,
yeah. There are
you know.
limited people who will
Yeah.
know what is given, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm giving to the needy and I see that there's still a greater need, maybe I reach out to a few people and say, hey, I was helping out this person, but I could really use some help. Any chance
Mhm.
you can come and participate with that? That's the kind of stuff
Yeah.
because you're not doing it for your glory. You're doing it to help
Yeah.
that individual and be there. So I think
So
there are
sometimes
times,
partnering up with others
yeah,
there's a
it, re-
wisdom, and
it
then you could give better help to that
but and
person.
it also requires sharing that,
Yeah.
hey, I've tried to help this person and I think we can do more. There needs to be some collaboration there. So I think to answer that question, I think it requires discernment. And the giving, the whole purpose of this verse was not like a money sermon. It was about giving to the needy. It's
Mhm.
being the hands and feet of Jesus to those in need.
Yeah.
So does that require secrecy all the time? I think that some discernment needs to be used there. Do I need again? It's do I need to do the virtue signaling with a selfie saying,
Sure.
"Look at all the good that I've
Yeah.
done," or is that between me and the Lord, me and that individual? Right? There needs to be some discernment in that.
Good. I loved in this point your story about your son, and you talked about just getting
Yeah,
getting rewards, and
yeah.
it turned into a, well, if I do this, will you give me this?
Hmm.
And that was super relatable. I know that's the story in my home with my
Oh yeah,
boys. I like that you said, we should be well behaved because it's the right thing to do.
right,
And then just the point that Jesus sees our good behavior,
right.
and he'll bless that. Any advice for parents out there who are wanting to raise a godly child? Just I don't know, anything about the just how you do a reward system, how you're teaching your kids. Any words of wisdom you could tell us?
I guess two things come to mind. Set the example.
Mhm.
Don't ask your kids to do something that you're not doing already. Start there. If you want your kids to do a certain behavior to emulate that, you need to do that first. If you don't want your kids to yell, then don't yell in the house,
Mhm.
right? If you want them to learn what a healthy marriage looks like, set the example
Mhm.
for them. The second thing I would say with that is you're gonna mess up as you do that. So acknowledge it and be prepared to apologize,
Yeah.
because that's the next best thing you can teach your kids, to be prepared to apologize and not be too proud to say, I'm sorry
Yeah.
that I screwed up and I'm still working on this. And thanks for the forgiveness. And let's move on from here, kind of thing. That's probably the best thing. I am right in the trenches with all of this, but
Sure.
those are things that I have to do regularly, apologize, and do my best to set a Christ-like example for my family.
Good. Yeah, I love those.
That's the best I can give you.
But before we started this podcast, the three of us with Damien, we're chatting and just thinking about good questions to ask your kids as we're thinking about going back to
Mhm.
school. What are some good questions that you could ask your kids? I know for mine, like my boys, I have to pull it out of them.
Yeah,
How was school today? Good.
yeah,
What did you like? I don't know.
yeah,
But what are some things that have been helpful for you? Like asking intentional
yeah.
questions,
So
talking to your kids?
last year I started doing this thing. I follow this. I think she's a therapist online. Anyway, for just helping with dads with kids and so forth.
Mhm.
And one of the questions that she said that to ask your kids, like when you pick them up, is, what was your favorite part of the day?
Mhm.
What was your least favorite part of the day? And I found that the least favorite part of the day, they automatically know what they don't like.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, "Oh, I hated this thing." But that gives you an insight into what your kids are thinking, what they like, what they don't like. And she specifically mentions this thing about you'll identify if it's related to their grades. And if you start to see that they're slipping on grades, or they're slipping in certain areas, you're going to realize that even before the teacher tells you, because your kid's going to tell you, right, I hate when we work on math. I hate when we do reading. I hate.
Mhm.
And then you also have an idea of where you need to be working on your
Mhm.
kids. Um, my kids are the same. I feel like it's pulling teeth sometimes asking those
Sure.
questions, and they're like, "Uh-huh." It's all, even if you ask open-ended questions, they give you a yes, no, I don't know, right? One of the things that worked really well was this. So I'm part of the school site councils, and they talk about all these things that they do and exercises that they use to help the kids. One of the things that works really well with Matthew, my second, is I tell him, Matthew, tell me about your day. And I'll say first, then next, last. That's what we do.
Okay.
So he has to tell me what happens first, then what happened next, and
Okay.
then what was the last thing that happened. So he loosely tells me about his day using
Okay.
those source things. He'll go, well, first we had lunch. And he's always, that's what he calls breakfast, lunch. He
Okay.
goes, first we had lunch, and then we, this, and then next we went to recess, and then but he'll get through the day.
Okay.
And the point is, once he starts talking, then it's like he goes off on some rabbit trail, but it gets him to
Get some
open up,
opened up. Yeah.
and he starts to talk. So I found that to be a really good tool with them to help them talk a little bit, but figuring out their likes and dislikes and using some of those tools to help them talk
That's awesome. That's
opens
really good
opens
advice. Yeah, that's good. Talk to your kids. It's important.
yeah.
That communication. Carrie, my wife was saying she heard something about even like a 10-10-10 rule. And it's really like spend focus time with them the first 10 minutes they
Oh
wake
yeah.
up. Um, 10 minutes when you first reconnect with them, like picking them up from school or
Right.
something.
It shouldn't
And
go
then,
right into homework, something about that,
yeah.
right? I
And
think
then
I
like
heard that.
10 minutes before bed.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're spending talking to
More
them
than
much
that,
more
yeah.
than that. But it's really like a super like a more intense,
There's an
like really
intentionality behind
connecting
that,
and
yeah.
stuff. Another piece of advice I thought's helpful is, and this is really hard, but I'm working on this, is connection before correction is a big thing as far as like
Oh
discipline
gosh.
or talking, because it's so easy to react. And I'm not by any means, I'm not good at this, but it's something I'm like, I think this is a really
Yeah.
important
Me
concept.
neither. I'm
And
totally not.
but it's kids, the point is stop doing this. What do they're not, they just get defensive and they're not listening in a way that they're going to
Mhm,
just shift and like, oh, I'm not going to do this ever again.
mhm.
So it's when you could get them in a calm place and talk to them rationally about it. So you're connecting, and then you ask them questions, you know, what do you think went wrong with that situation?
Yeah.
And talking to the kids, they're not always going to get it 100% of the time, but definitely more effective than just situate, yelling and stopping every time we do stuff. So that's not, my home's not always modeling that
Some about
great.
moms, though, they tend to do that much better. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's just, you've seen the
Yeah,
same thing.
probably.
I'm much more. I react
Yeah.
quicker, whereas Stephanie she is better at saying she'll bring them, like, if the kids are fighting,
Yeah.
bring them together. What happened? My first thought is not
Yeah.
like, I don't care what happened. Like, why are you behaving that
Yeah.
way? That's the first thing that comes to mind, and it's
And sometimes, you got to get their attention, scare them a
yeah,
little bit
yeah.
as the authority. Carrie and I realized we need to tag team.
Mm,
So I could tell like she's getting real mad and stuff. And it's like, okay, I need to step in, or vice
yeah,
versa. Probably more often she's like, do you need me to take over?
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah,
I'm not. That's a huge area of weakness for me.
yeah,
I struggle
it's
with that.
hard.
So
Kids are frustrating sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, families are tough, but hang in there. Any final words you have, just as far as thinking about giving generously and
I think I would just continue to extend the same invitation I did at the end of the service. Try and focus on ways to avoid, I think, even in what we're talking about now,
hmm
avoiding that hypocrisy
hmm
in our godliness. It doesn't have to just be pertaining to giving to the needy. It could be in anything. Anything that we do that is a godly example, we shouldn't gloat about it. We should always seek to give God the honor and the glory for all of those things. We should be doing it for the Lord, and I shouldn't
yeah,
be doing it to build a reputation for myself. It should. That's not what Christ came for. He didn't come to set a reputation for himself. Follow that example. If it pertains to giving to the needy, great. If it pertains to how you parent, okay, right? It's a blanket statement that can go out
yeah.
over everything. So I would encourage that same challenge for all of us that I gave at the very end. Let's focus on working on avoiding that hypocrisy in our godliness.
Good.
Yeah.
Before you don't turn off the podcast yet. I do want to invite the listeners, if you have any questions, and it could be on any week, you could send us in the questions. We'd love to include those on the podcast. We would love to do a special episode. So if we get enough questions in soon, we might do it in the next couple weeks. Otherwise, we may just keep collecting and do it at the end of this series. First, we'll prioritize any questions related to Sermon on the Mount. And then after that, anything really about the Bible, Christian life, our faith. You could ask us just questions about the pastors. It's fine too. We would love to hear those questions. Email us at podcast@centerpointchurch.church. That's the best way to get those in. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening. And as always, we very much value your time that you give to us. God bless.
Bye, guys.